Well, thank you so very much. I'm going to indulge you for a couple of minutes in myself before I introduce my distinguished panelists to you, because Laura, you did make me chuckle when I heard that you were previously working in a space command center, because I imagined you staring out to space, because before my journey I was actually staring down people's mouths, because I actually used to be a dental surgeon. So very strange people. Yeah, you are at the right seminar, don't worry. So how the hell did I get from where I was in dental surgery to where I am? Because I became a journalist and I researched the fashion industry, the textile industry, the environment, and it was enough to change my life and my career 10 years ago. So with that in mind, I've been working to promote sustainability in the fashion industry for 10 years. And I'm going to give you a couple of my top line perceptions before I hand it over to these incredible experts next to me. So in these 10 years, the conversation around sustainability in the fashion industry has shifted from all of the different raw materials and the fibres. It's really shifting towards having much greater interest in polyester. Back in the early days, everyone was talking about cotton and hemp and coffee and pineapple, and polyester really has emerged as a much bigger issue for the fashion industry over the more recent years, in my experience. What we're seeing in the fashion industry now is horrific waste. I can see you nodding, because the fashion industry is really having some major challenges. We're producing more and more clothes. We buy 400% more clothes than we did 15 years ago. We produce 150 billion new garments every year. And in terms of waste, textile waste just in China is estimated to be 26 million tons every year. So regardless to say, we're very, very busy. Within all of this waste, polyester has become quite an interesting discussion on the recycled side, because it's offering an interesting opportunity to close the loop on polyester, whether the polyester comes from the industry or from plastic bottles or from other industries. So I'm really excited to be able to discuss how the fashion industry can become more sustainable through the use of recycled materials, and how the fashion industry can also soak up all the plastic bottles and not perhaps the food plastic yet. So with that, let me please allow my panelists to introduce themselves, please. So Harsha, would you like to go first?
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Harshvardhan. I am heading Environment Department for Global Sourcing at H&M, based out of Hong Kong. And I've been with H&M for 15 years now, past 10 years working in sustainability. And my personal interest and personal involvement is around sustainable materials, processes, and innovation. And in the last 10 years, we have been trying to source more sustainable materials as well as recycled materials. It's a slow process, but now we have reached a stage where it's a do or die. It's a situation where we don't think it is only a sustainability issue anymore. It's a business issue. If we don't do it now, not just H&M, but the whole fashion industry will suffer in the future. So I'm very glad to discuss my points and share some of our challenges as well. Because what we are looking now is opportunities and innovators who can work with us to make it happen. Thanks.
Monique?
Good afternoon. My name is Monique Messam. I'm a textile engineer. I'm based in Shanghai, and I'm the founder and CEO of Vision Textile, with a brand called Waste to Wear. We make it our mission to develop recycled textiles made from plastic recycled bottles in combination with natural fibers, not made mostly, and to bring them to a level where you really practically can make very beautiful things out of them, that the consumers can really choose to make a conscious choice to help plastic problem out of the environment. We work with big corporations. We work with big fashion brands. We make scrubs, medical scrubs for hospitals, and we make school uniforms, uniforms for workers, workers for people like Unilever, where we help to actively contribute in a conscious mindset shift to that people really realize how necessary it is that you make a choice for a recycled product instead of a product where real resources are needed. We aim to become like the Intel in the plastic, in the textile recycling company. I'm very honored to be here on this panel with H&M person, and I'm very interested to have this conversation.
Hi, so my name's Akshay. Really great to be here at this session for the first time. It's pretty cool. So I am a biochemist by training, but really find myself being out by training a lot. I am working with some friends who graduated from UC Davis about a year ago. But we essentially were in school thinking about do we want to get jobs, and not really. So we looked at a lot of problems in the world and saw plastics is a huge one. And there wasn't really a lot of good technology to deal with the plastics. So we looked specifically actually at fabrics and realized that in the past 50 years or so, there's been very little innovation on the material side. And the polyester was developed in the 50s. Why hasn't that changed? Why is that more predominantly polymer? So we thought, is there a way to use new technology to kind of do something with it? So we developed a process, a one-step conversion process using biochemical technology to turn that into new polyester. So if you give us something that has a polyester component in it, we could probably pull the polyester out and use it to make new virgin stuff. So we are trying to right now do that at price preference to existing petrochemical processing for polyester production. So we think it's really cool and are really trying to work with the fabrics because we find that 10, 15 million tons per year is for the packaging, but 40 million tons for the polyester clothing. And when I learned that, I was like, wow, that's great, like so much. So why does no one talk about that as such a huge problem? So we honed on that, and it's really basically it's a huge problem, really huge. So someone needs to solve it too.
Absolutely, thank you very much. Fashion's all about new, exciting, and gorgeous new production and new trends and colours and things like that, which really makes people want to start at the product. So I'd like to perhaps start with you, Harsha. H&M is obviously a global retailer and dictating so much of what's worn and what's produced, and dictating so much of the supply chain. So starting with you, I want to sort of drill down a little bit more on some of the recycled polyester products that you've got and how you're sourcing the polyester for that, please.
Yeah, so the first big collection we had with recycled polyester was in 2007. It was called Garden Collection at that time. To be honest, we were not sure how it will be received by our customers, because saying it is made with recycled bottles is not really fancy. So we put a lot of effort to make it look good, and we had external designers working on it, and we were very surprised, pleasantly surprised with the kind of reception we got. It was a huge success, and since then we have been having this collection every year. The name was changed to Conscious Collection in 2011, and the majority of Conscious Collection is made with recycled polyester from PET bottles. And what we see now is there's a trend that the customers are receiving it well, but we have to still make it look really good. In the past, we have tried with organic cotton without any dyes and grey looking. No one bought it. So we will continue to explore possibilities working with recycled polyester, and it will grow in the coming years.
So forgive me if I'm asking a really obvious question, but are you just using plastic bottles, or are you also recycling post-consumer polyester? Where's the polyester coming from for the collections?
Right now, it's all plastic bottles. Recycled polyester is we are trying to explore. We are running some pilots. I'm actually there's own technology. We are working with other innovators who have the technology for textile to textile. But right now, all of the collection will be the recycled rate.
Wonderful, thank you, Harsha. Monique, I have the same question for you really around the range of products that you're making with recycled polyester and also where you're going with recycled polyester. I think I know the answer already, but please.
Well, the range of products, first of all, I totally agree with Harsha that to make something and to say it's recycled will not sell only like that, because you have a lot of challenges. There is very often price difference in it. So what you need to do is you really need to make something very beautiful out of it and very useful. We also put a lot of attention on the characteristics of the garments, we put inherent functions in it. And when you make that kind of mix with a fashionable outlook and combine it with natural fibers in our way, but also the way we talk about fashion, you really have a lot of success. You can drive demand as a brand, but also a marketing tool for a company or a way to show your annual reports that your carbon footprint reduction has gone up and has a positive story about it. We get mostly our plastics, waste plastics out of plastic recycled bottles. We also use some parts from reusing textiles, breaking them down into plastic again, where we work together with a Japanese company here in China.
Well, one of the challenges that I've witnessed and even been part of is the challenges of mixing fibres. Again, forgive me if everybody knows all the challenges of the fashion industry, because I'm sure all of the other industries have similar challenges, but one of the major problems that we have is the mixed fibres, and the holy grail for the solution around closed loops, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of that is how do we separate these fibres so that we can put them back into their correct waste recycled streams. Which leads me perfectly to you, because this is one of the big challenges that you're trying to address. Can you take us through a little bit more detail how your processing can or cannot, or how you want it to deal with mixed fibres?
Yeah, so, right, exactly. The biggest problem is it's a heterogeneous waste stream that can't be easily sorted. Okay, how can you sort them? How can you separate them, right? Because individually, each portion has a value. So our process essentially, what it does is it's used as a synthetic biology and new technology being developed. We're in San Francisco, so uses biochemical processes to selectively pull out polyester or other polyester-based polymers that and doesn't interfere with the other stuff. So cellulosic cotton or even nylon is a note. So we feel like that's really powerful. We need to have that selectivity and that specificity. And then the challenge is, okay, how do you do that at cost, right? Because polyester is like $1 a kilo, it's not that much. So how do you make a process that's going to be amenable for making a product that's so cheap, right? Because that's the entire process of the problem. So the technology, I think we feel really confident that the technology works. We have a really robust technology that works at the lab scale. How do you do that at a 1,000-ton scale and a 1,000,000-ton scale per year? Because that's the type of volumes that we're talking about here. It's not like a small amounts of material to make that profitable. So that's really the technology we have, and then working with existing value chain partners like H&M and stuff to see how that technology can fit into existing systems.
Harsha, I know that Akshay has won a significant amount of money from the H&M Conscious Foundation, which is very separate from the H&M business, but I know that obviously you've been spending a lot of time together. given that you are a mega fashion retailer, you know, selling to the world, producing a lot of clothes, making clothes with mixed fibres, and you're in possession of a lot of post-consumer waste through your take-back programs, how much of the solution is this kind of technology, if we can scale it up, to deal with the polyester in the waste stream?
I think the only solution to this waste problem will come through technology. There is no other way of doing it. And we are talking about non-fibers and design for recycling and things like that. But in order to do that, you have to convince every brand, local or global, to make it happen. Our focus in the past year or two is to look for technologies who take care of multi-fiber composition. So there are two big challenges. One is sorting. Right now, all the sorting of post-consumer waste is manual, which will not work when you want to scale up. So we will need technology for sorting, and then we need technology to develop to take care of recycling. Akshay is one example. There are other examples where separation and if it's cotton polyester mix, the technology should be able to take care of both of them. So if we only take care of one, the other will end up in waste anyways. And that will not work. And maybe to start with, we have to work with this, whatever existing technology is there. But in the future, we need much high-tech technology for sorting, separation, and recycling. And that will be H&M's big focus, to look for these kind of innovators and invest in them and support them.
Monique, I know you have a very techy background with your textile. What was your
Textile engineer.
textile engineer? And my sort of material science extends to dental material science, so my knowledge is going to be quite limited. Which is why I wanted to ask you to help me to maybe ask more questions around the. To help me ask questions that would be suitable for the audience to understand perhaps the process and the technology around the microbial breakdown that actually is working on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm passing over my moderator role.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that we use a Japanese company here, which you obviously know, I think, King and Sharon, and they are able to break down chemically up to a percentage of 70% polyester. So if you have a mix of 30% something else, it's bring the 70% polyester down back into the polyester to make a varnish. What is different in their way with your technology?
Yeah. So our technology does not do sort of breaking everything down, and then making everything back up. Energetically, that's sort of, it's a challenge to do at economic rates, right? The cost of polyester is so low. So our technology doesn't really break up the polymer chain. So we think that could be better energetically for the process. And really then just designing the process to be amenable towards different types of waste, right? So if you have nylon, if you have spandex, if you have other sorts of materials, you can develop the sorting. The sorting is really important. But how good can the sorting be, really is the question. So our approach is like, okay, screw it. Like, if the sorting's there or not, there should just be a solution where you can just dump stuff in and pull out the pieces that you want selected. This kind of comes from the biofuels experiences that a lot of the people that I work with around the area. Right?
So you mean that you sort the item, so an item cannot be a mix, or
It can.
And to what kind of percentage can it be a mix?
And any percentage.
And
Yeah,
so
doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't matter if it's like 30% polyester or 30%
doesn't matter.
acrylic,
Doesn't
10%, doesn't matter.
Yeah, selectivity is the valuable portion here, right? And then fitting that into the existing supply chain of where does the products go? Do people buy it? What are the perceptions around recycled materials versus?
So if you have selected a certain amount of items for the same kind of composition, if I understand well,
Yeah.
and you have then found a way, like using microbial or an enzyme to break this down. Is that what I understand? You put it into a process with, what do you use, water?
Yeah. So there's some chemistry there, but it's essentially a one-step conversion. That would be the best way to explain it. And I can go into detail if anyone would want to know more. But the details are it's pretty intense. But it's a one-step conversion. That means the energetics to do the conversion are not that bad. What's specific?
Do you need a very big processor? A very
Oh,
big
yeah.
to do that?
Yeah,
So you need a very big investment for having this thing, because we have waste everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So and very often in places where they don't have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So is it only on a big scale done?
Yeah, that's a challenge, right? So if you look at the practices of Dow or BASF in the world, they have ways of doing this thing, right? You look at the techno-economics and you build plants. Our approach is very much, let's see what existing infrastructure works out there, and how can we retrofit an existing facility to just plug in. So, right, if you have a sort of, like they do in Beijing or other places in China, they already plug its waste. Can you just add on a portion to that existing infrastructure?
So just for my understanding, you use enzymes.
Yeah.
So where do you get them from?
You make that's fine. So you can use microbiology to engineer organisms to produce different stuff.
And you need a lot of them, big volume.
No, not much. That's where all the key technologies in developing new microbes. So this whole practice of synthetic biology is really how do you edit the microbe to do a different thing. So microbes don't eat sugar. Okay, what do you do with that whole process? So if you can tweak that by looking at the DNA, then they can do interesting things. So
There is a residue after the process, or is it all completely brought back to a usable form of stuff?
yeah, there are some material transformations you have to do at the back end to make sure that you get the specific requirements for the material to make sense. But for the most part, those are well-known processes to get the material characteristics where they need to be. The challenge is doing the initial separation.
So the financial differences is the separation,
Separation.
but it's not the process itself because that's not very
No, process is cheap. The separation is the biggest thing.
It goes into a fluid situation, so you can put it into an extruder again, or
Sure, yeah. You can put it into extruder, you can direct spin fibers, you can do put injection molding actually if you want stuff. The pellets, right? You go to pellet. It really just depends on tailoring the process to specific.
so is H&M has put a lot of money because that's what. So are you going to build plants? Yeah? Are you going to build
Just to clarify, he's just one.
Yeah,
and always wants an innovator. So currently, I don't know how big is your lab. That's where things are happening. Is it 3 to 4 years before you actually?
That's a question.
I think it's a long-term thing. And as I said, it's actually he has one technology. There are at least half a dozen other technologies that we are aware of. The challenge is which is more economic. We have to get it to virgin polyester level, or if we don't manage to do that, then it will be very difficult to scale up. We are confident it's possible. Actually, confident this technology will make it happen. So what we are doing currently, we are looking at every technology that is available and looking at possibilities which can be scaled up. So it's a long journey. I don't think any company is ready to do it tomorrow. It's at least 3 to 4 years more than ready to scale it up.
I want to talk a bit about money. You've mentioned cost, financial side of it. Currently, we're going to come to consumers in a moment, but let's first deal with the money. So what's the difference in the cost between a recycled product? Obviously, you can take your pick which range you want to compare. So a virgin polyester versus recycled poly.
Well, currently we face, of course, a situation that the price of one barrel of $2 is about $70. And when we started our business, it was about $100. So at that moment, we were actually cheap. At this moment, it's a big challenge. But at the quality that we are doing, where we're using extremely thin yarns as our main business to make it make very high quality fabrics. Out of them, if you compare a 100% virgin towards a 100% recycled polyester, and again there are different levels in recycled polyester. But what we are using, the difference in price at this moment is about 25 to 30% on the fabric. If you mix it, however, with a cotton or with viscose, then the price difference can go down to something like 10 to 15%. And in some cases where we work with high quality fashion designers, even couture labels, we mix it with silk. And when we do that kind of thing, it even brings the price down. So it all depends on what you do with it and what you need it for. Polyester also has some extra positive things, so it's more strong. You can leave a wider width than a lot of other yarns. So there you can also have your challenges in money or increase reduced.
Asha, do you have a sort of percentage difference to share with people?
I think it's similar percentage, but it's very difficult to benchmark because polyester, virgin polyester prices is going up and down. But what we see with the trend of recycled polyester pricing, it's coming down compared to a few years ago. It's much more efficient.
Why is that?
I think, at least for us, it's about volume and scale and efficiency in the production. Now we have long-term commitment with our suppliers, so they can plan better, they can have the efficiency increase. So on absolute term, it's getting cheaper. Compared to virgin polyester, it's very difficult to say because of oil prices.
It's scalability which will make it much more interesting money-wise. So it's also what we hope to achieve when we talk to big corporations and big brands. That if more and more people are doing it, it's becoming less and less a problem financially.
Christina, so if I can ask you a question. You work really closely with the consumer in sustainability. What have you seen in person, consumers' willingness to purchase something that's recycled? Do people pay more? Do they pay less? I know you work with all levels of the.
I don't know the answer to that because people don't buy anything from us. But I can talk about perceptions.
Right.
I definitely think that consumers that are more interested in buying recycled fibre or anything that is more sustainable if it's at the same price point. So when presented with two options and one has got some sort of environmental social benefits, they will go for the more sustainable variety, and that's demonstrated across different surveys and brand examples. I've always got to think about recycled. Having lived in Asia or Hong Kong for 11 years, media always say to me that looking at Chinese consumers, will they buy second-hand? Will they wear recycled and all this, you know? And I genuinely think that yes, they will if it's the same price point. I mean, certainly not if it's more expensive. Years ago, we did a big project with Esprit, and we worked on a collection which was 100% recycled, using 35% recycled PET and the remainder recycled cotton. And of course, the product actually to make was more expensive than the virgin material, but Esprit retailed it at the same price point, which allowed us to check, will consumers go in there? And yes, it sold well, but not well enough. Which leads me to the consumer, because we can, you know, it's the consumer that can ultimately drive all of these great supply chains. So what do you think, Marsha? You sell to the world, and I know that your conscious collection is very successful, and congratulations on that. Do you really think that the future consumer is going to be always hunting down your green conscious collection labels?
It's difficult to say. This is something we have been discussing a lot within H&M. What we normally do, we think that it's our responsibility to ask our consumers to buy more sustainable material. So we put in more effort into our conscious collection and make it look much better than our normal collection. So obviously the selling will also be good. We are still not very sure if they buy that just because it's sustainable, or then they buy a conscious collection because they are really better and nicer. And this will continue. We have to continue to do this research. It's also about price point, at what price they would like to buy it. And that's the reason I said technology is the key. And if you make it at the same price as virgin material, then consumers don't care. They buy it. They feel good about buying something which is more sustainable. And that is what the whole industry should focus on. Oil price will definitely go up at one point. So if we have technology for recycling at that point to make it cheaper than oil, then we have a fantastic case to make it consumers.
Do you want to comment on consumers?
Yeah, I agree that the price will help. But what we see with different brands where we work with is that the momentum is rising. So there is more and more interest in really products who do something good for the world. So we also found some creative ways to subsidize the difference. So I'll give you an example. We work with corporations where we look at their waste streams, and then we see what kind of waste management do they have now. How is that done? We have a department in our company which is especially looking at that part. And then we identify that it can be done better. We also worked with creatively coming up with new ideas of new products we could bring into back into their own organization. And that doesn't always have to be textiles. So in this case, we work with, for instance, Unilever, where we analyzed 7 factories in China. With the result of this thing, we increased the value of their waste. And with that money of the increased value, we subsidize part of the difference in the uniforms which we now make for their workers. So that is a good story for them, it's a good story for us, because we also, of course, we are not a charity, but it's a good way to creatively think about how you can solve that problem. Another solution what we have come up with is that if you blend it, if you sell it in a different way, for instance, we have a big chef client in Europe, the biggest chef producer for restaurant garments in Europe, and they have a whole collection of our garments. So what they say is like, they don't say this is 29 euro and this is recycled and costs 39 euro. They say this is 29 euro and this is also 29 euro plus 10 euro. Actually it's 5 euro plus 5 euro extra as a green tax. But for that, you save so many bottles, so many energy, you use so many carbon, and then they have to read it. And they think, well, 5 euro, I want to pay that. Because, then I get those, if you only have a price difference and you don't explain it very well, it's very often communication to the end consumer, which makes them have a mindset change. And I think that is a very big key. The moment that you get people to think differently, and they think, well, I pay $5 more, but I can really actually take this out of the landfill and really help this. Then they think, yeah, $5, why not?
It's a clever way to make them buy it. That's nice, I like that. Did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like it's super important. How do you scale that to the entire world? It's something that, like, the question that I would have is like, will everyone be able to do that? It's kind of what I'm wondering about, like how the consumer is a necessary part of this equation. And it's not to say that you can develop technology and all the problems yourself. That was the original approach, not a business approach. how does the consumer fit into the entire sustainability? If you want to make the polymer sustainable, what can the consumer do? What can I do, right? What should I do?
That's why it's for us it's difficult to say how consumers feel because we sell in 60 different countries. So it's very difficult to generalize what consumers feel. Every country is different. In Europe, they are willing to pay more, they are willing to buy sustainable materials at a higher price. In China, it's different. Within China, there's big cities, smaller cities, consumers are very different. So every market is different. So we need to find a solution which fits everyone. That's very important.
Yeah, so we're going to open up to the audience here. I have a confession to make that I am wearing a polyester suit I always wear. And also, I think Akshay said he was going to test his enzyme on me later tonight to see if it was resolved. So you all have to come to the breaks. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm down.
So anyway, anyone have a question for the panelists here? End of the day, you've got a great panel. This is a tricky.
I hope you didn't already say this, and I didn't just miss it because it's the end of the day. But at some point, did one of you tell us how big the problem is? Like how much waste is out there? We heard earlier that the food grade waste in America was 40%. Food grade plastic waste in America was 40% of the total. Where does textile waste fit into that big picture?
So what we did is per year, 10-15 million tons of food, consumer grade, 40 million tons for fabric grade polyester. Worldwide? Worldwide. Yeah.
40 million tons a year.
Might have just been US. Actually, now I think about US makes sense. Yeah, just US.
And that's all polyester or all food?
That's fabric grade.
All fabric.
Fabric grade, yeah. Only for both.
What percent is polyester out of that?
So 40 million tons. It's
Yeah.
all of it. 40 million tons produced per year of polyester for fabric grade uses.
Big number, big opportunity out there. Anyone? I saw the big number.
A lot of what you guys talked about today was textile at the end of the life, so recycling, etc. Can you guys talk a little bit about the sourcing process? How do we get more designers to source sustainable products, to source sustainable from the beginning, and in particular H&M? Because I know that you talk a little bit about the economics and how to actually ship there. Like what's the strategy for actually getting to that shipping chain?
So 2 weeks ago, we announced our new sustainable strategy, and one of our ambitions which we publicly talk about is we want to be 100% circular. We don't have a date yet on that ambition, but that's the direction in which we are going, which actually means that everyone in our company has to think circular, and it's starting from designing to selling production. So what we have done internally is we are setting up targets for every department that they have to buy. It's our system materials, which is organic recycling. In 2014, we set a target that every year we increase recycled polyester by 50% year on year, and that will continue. And at some point, hopefully, we will say that we only buy recycled polyester. We are still investigating whether it is feasible, possible, what the impact on our collection. So the target setting process is very bottom up. So every department has their own target for every year, and they have to buy recycled polyester for the collection. It has price impact, but that has to be negated somehow by having better collection. That's what I say. So it's a very rigorous internal process.
I think that it all starts with education. Right? So what we do is that we work with textile universities where we educate that there is an option to normal textiles. You know, you have recycled polyester, you have recycled cotton, there is a possibility. We also have a very big department where we make school gowns. If you teach children in a very young age that waste can be a resource, you open up their minds. And I think when we all would do that, because schools are very, very interested in having school uniforms made out of partly recycled plastic bottles, because we made in the labels, we made little bottles. We have a support system for educational sports in schools, and the kids, they start to think differently. And when they start thinking differently, they will hopefully come up with a lot of solutions that we didn't find yet. So I always say when I'm speaking at schools, it's the kids, it's you. I always say you have to come up with a solution for the problems we solve.
Can I ask a follow-up question? A bit controversial, but where do you think the industry of fast fashion is going? Because fast fashion itself contributes to more and more and more textile waste, right? And I understand that economics drive it, people want that, but is there any kind of internal thinking strategy on how to shape that industry? Is there a moral or an ethical imperative to shift away from fast fashion? Like, where is that going to go? We're just going to keep doing more fast fashion, and where is that going?
I get this question every time I'm on a panel. I'm not surprised. The whole, it is true that fast fashion is about consumption, and that is one discussion which is difficult to have, both internally and externally. In the past few years, what we have been talking about, the circular economy, we are looking at ways of decoupling the growth from resource constraint. Whether it's possible or not, we are not sure. But the whole idea is, if, for example, in 10 years' time, let's say that every recycled polyester we are selling in our stores is made of recycled polyester that is collected in the store, then we don't have to feel guilty about growing the way we are growing. And we heard about they want to become Intel of plastics, and we want to become Tesla of fashion. It should be possible with technology that we grow, but still without consuming minimum resources. And the good thing with our pollution is that we have the power and we have now resources to make it happen. And it's also a responsibility. We have been responsible for the waste that we generated for so many years. And this is a responsibility to take care of it and move the industry forward in that direction. That is the ambition anyways. So we haven't been thinking about slowing down, because we know that population will grow. In 2050 there will be 9 billion people looking for fashionable clothes, and we are opening up new markets. The selling will continue to grow, but we would like to provide customers with sustainable alternatives compared to our competition.
I just wanted to add to that very, very, very briefly, because working in the sector for 10 years, working to reduce waste in the fashion industry, obviously the issue of fast fashion is something that's a real challenge. It's driving us so hard. We work crazy hard, but the fast fashion industry is making more and more waste. So it's something that we personally grappled with really and had to think very deeply about what is our position on that. And I've actually come over the last couple of years to an acceptance that the fast fashion industry is here to stay. It's not going to change, I don't think, unless anyone's got a wildly different view. And it's not just because I'm getting a bit old and a bit tired. I think the fast fashion industry is going to be here to stay for as long as I live. And so I just wanted to share with you that we are taking the view of working within that model to try to make that model more sustainable or less polluting.
We really got to move on. we have a cocktail hour, we can talk.
Oh, well, I think the colleagues will be there, so please
Yes.
come and see your face. Thank you.
Obviously, a lot of interest in the debate discussion. Sorry to cut you off, but in fairness to the next speaker, so let's have a round of applause for our panel.